I'm still getting the error that my products don't seem to have a length, even though I'm fairly confident that this code should retrieve my products. But what is wrong with that code? Well, I am returning data here in both cases, but keep in mind that this is asynchronous code. So my fetchAll method here executes this line, and as you learned, it simply registers this callback in its event emitter registry, to put it like this, but then it just finishes with this function, and this function itself does not return anything. These return statements here belong to this inner function here, not to this outer function. So fetchAll does not return anything, it returns undefined therefore, and hence in my view, in the shop.ejs file, if I try to access the length on my products, I try to access length on undefined, and I get an error. So this is the issue, and how can I fix this then? There are multiple ways of fixing this. For now, I will simply accept an argument in fetchAll. That's a callback, and that actually allows me to pass a function into fetchAll, which fetchAll will execute once it is done, so that the thing calling fetchAll can pass a function it is then aware of being called, which holds the data I want to return. Sounds complex? Let me show you how it works. So I will receive a function here. This argument will hold a function. And therefore, instead of returning an array, here I will have a callback where I pass an empty array. So I execute this argument as a function to which I pass an empty array. And I will do the same down there, just not with an empty array, but here I will have a callback where I pass my parsed JSON data. So I do call this callback, and this allows me to go to my controller where I do call fetchAll, and there I now simply have to pass in a function where I know that I eventually will get my products, like this. And therefore, I don't need to store it here because this fetchAll function will not return anything. Instead here, I simply create my own callback process and I render in that function I pass to fetchAll once I know that fetching all products is done. And I receive the products here because that is exactly the argument I pass to the callback in fetchAll. Because the callback argument here will refer to this anonymous function I'm passing into fetchAll. It's the same logic readFile uses here, just that we didn't define readFile on our own. But readFile also takes a callback. And here we pass in the function readFile should execute for us once it's done. We do the same, just that we write both sides now. We have fetchAll, and fetchAll takes a function it should execute once it's done. And once it's done, we get the products, thanks to our own implementation of fetchAll, and we then render our response with those products. And with that, if we save that, and now we reload this page, we do see the products here, and we do of course see all the products we had in the past, as well as any new products we add. And there is a little styling glitch I see. But this is how this works. And now, it's still not a database, but it's better than this in-array storage, and it already shows us why we might want to use such a model. It's not super complex code, but it clearly is code that belongs to this data, to this model, and therefore it's outsourced into its own separate file.